From a new intra-world villain who will terrorize Jake Sully and the Omaticaya tribe, to Miles Quaritch and a few others who will continue developing into epic villains in their own right.
Hey, Sully, how's it feel to betray your own race?
Here's what you need to know about Avatar 3's main villain, straight from James Cameron himself, starting with Varang, the leader of the Ash people. If there's anything Avatar 2 did, other than making people believe in the breathtaking visual effects again, is hype them up for the sequel. It set up very compelling storylines for Miles Quaritch, Spider, and even General Ardmore. But I'll get to them later, because Avatar 3's real villain will be Varang, played by Una Chaplin. Back in February, the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank held an exclusive Q&A session of Avatar 2, and James Cameron and Avatar 2's producer, John Landau, made a huge appearance to make the fans happy, and James clarified an important concern about the Avatar franchise.
Actually, you know what? We didn't even try to beat them again. It just happened spontaneously. The Chinese government said, all right, time for everybody to go back to the movies. What do we want them to go see? How about Avatar?
Will there be other villains than the rich white men and the military? There's been a lot of that in the movies so far. Most of the villains have been linked with the military-industrial complex, whether it's Miles, or Parker Selfridge, or General Ardmore. But Avatar 3 will change things up in several different ways. It'll introduce an intra-world villain in the shape of the Ash people, who will be the primary antagonist for most of the film. James revealed that they'll be an incredibly hostile clan that lives in the volcanic regions of Pandora. They'll derive their energy from the molten biomes found around the world, and they'll obviously have adaptations to survive in extreme weather, just like the Metkayina clan did. But I want to dive into what we know so far about Varang. Una Chaplin's pretty psyched about the role. She has a love for the Avatar franchise, and admires the way James uses big Hollywood budgets to explore things he finds important, like our relationship with the flora and fauna around us, or our relationship with the spiritual being that controls everything around us. Avatar 2 was basically about identity, belonging, and connecting with things on a spiritual level, like Loak's friendship with Payakan, or Kiri's connection with Awa. And this hints that Avatar 3 will be more of that, but with Varang and the Ash people creating as much chaos as possible. Plus, when you have multiple clans trying to live peacefully and another clan wants to conquer their lands or annihilate them entirely, the concepts of identity, community, and spirituality are challenged even more. Avatar 3 will have a chance to test that. It'll have the opportunity to muddy the waters and light a fire that'll keep burning even in Avatar 4. At least, that's what I think. Varang feels like the spark that'll incite a revolution. She sounds like she'll be focused, driven, and relentless. She'll be the only one who can truly push Jake and his family to their limits, and in a way that Quaritch just wasn't able to do. And from the way James described the Ash people, Varang already feels like a dangerous individual. Here's hoping James does her character justice, because both Avatar 1 and 2 suffered from a lack of compelling villains. It's not that Quaritch or Selfridge weren't good villains. They were. It's just they were also generic, like cardboard cutouts of every genre trope you can think of, especially Quaritch. He felt particularly one-note, but Avatar 2 did a great job of making him more complex. He had layers this time around. He was able to understand what it's like to live in a Na'vi body, and he lived their culture too. He even connected with Spider on some level, and audiences love that James put Stephen Lang's talents to good use. But we need more. Varang is a step in the right direction, because James has teased an entirely new villain that the Jake family hasn't seen before, or expected. It's someone from inside the Na'vi population who wants to torment Jake and the entire Omaticaya clan. It's James's way of shaking things up and doing the opposite of what he's done in Avatars 1 and 2. We've only seen the positive side of the Na'vi, but Avatar 3 will focus on the negatives, on those people who incite violence or use politics to gain control of land, or are just horrible in general. Maybe it's time to do the same with Quaritch too, don't you think? James has said that the franchise franchise isn't about introducing a new villain in each sequel. It's about diversifying the world, whilst retaining the original villain, Miles Quaritch. He's going to stick around longer than you think, and fans love that he and Jake are now mortal enemies. They're like Billy Butcher and Homelander from The Boys, if you think about it. There's a kid between the two, and they'll probably stop fighting just to make sure the kid's alright. But then they'll get back to fighting again, and that's what everyone loves about them. They're like star-crossed adversaries who will never forgive each other for their sins. It's pretty Shakespearean if you ask me. So, what's next for Avatar 3 other than Varang and Quaritch? Well, James has revealed another important character who will change things dramatically, and that's Spider. He's essentially the glue that'll stick Jake and Quaritch together. He's the one who'll keep bringing them back together. In an interview with Directing Film's Andrew Salazar, James revealed that Spider will have a major role in the story from Avatar 3 all the way to Avatar 5. He might not be as fleshed out as he wants him to be, but he'll get there soon. He's already a fan favorite because of how he saved Quaritch at the end of Avatar 2, and then he rejoined the Sully family. I'd love to see the aftermath of the whole situation, because Neytiri pulled a knife to his throat to try and stop Quaritch from killing Kiri. She probably wouldn't have killed him, but just the act of threatening his life must have traumatized him. And this needs to be explored in the sequel, because it means that Spider has the potential to transform into a minor villain / anti-hero. Neytiri's decision to threaten his life will have consequences, and I'm sure Quaritch will use that opportunity to manipulate Spider to turn against his family. It could happen, especially after he found out that Quaritch is his biological father. But that's one potential villain in Avatar 3 and 2 confirmed ones. So what about General Ardmore? Seeing Edie Falco boss people around was nothing short of epic. She's one of the best actresses of her generation, but her character Ardmore was a bit one note. She was basically a replacement for Quaritch, and her character just didn't have much to do in the movie. She was just there to give orders and torment the Na'vi. That's it. But she could turn out to be an excellent villain moving forward. I think Avatar 2 was just an introduction to her, with most of her evilness saved for the next one. She has already proven herself a capable leader, and she's very cold-blooded and manipulative, and that's everything you need in a good villain. But just like Quaritch, there needs to be more, and I hope James works on this. By Avatar 3, Ardmore could become the commander of the RDA, and she might come in direct contact with the Ash people, and therefore Varang. Anything's possible. So yeah, I'm excited that Avatar 3 has a rich array of villains, from Varang and Ardmore to Quaritch and potentially Spider. I'm certain Avatar 3 is going to be more involved and more complex than anything we've seen before, especially if Una Chaplin's playing the main villain. And that's all I have for you today on what you can expect from Avatar 3's villains.